Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Division video. It's the weekend, which means that the vendors have rotated, and of course since Underground has dropped, at least for Xbox One and PC, then there are some additional vendors to factor in. However, it's worth mentioning that I will still include all of the 204 stuff, the Dark Zone vendors, and the regular stuff, so hopefully this will still be useful if you are on PS4 as well. But do bear in mind that there will be a few things that you won't be able to get just yet because I'll be talking about some of the things in the Underground. Either way, hopefully you all find this useful, so if you do, then a like would be super appreciated, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. Now, let's kick things off, as always, with the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone's an interesting place now because if you are in the Underground and you're farming for, say, 229 gear, then generally speaking, most of the vendors aren't really of any use to you anymore. You can, of course, get really good loot from Dark Zone bosses and actually farming the actual Dark Zone itself, but generally speaking, the vendors, for the most part, aren't too useful. However, that being said, of course, not everyone is at the top of the gear score bracket just yet, so if you are looking for, say, 204 stuff, then as always, starting in DZ02, you can get an electronics vest, an electronics backpack, stamina gloves, and stamina knee pads. Of course, the useful one out of there would still be stamina gloves if you are going after Savage. Then moving over to DZ03, this is of course where you get your weapons. There are actually three useful things here this time around. If you have the 1.3 update, then you can get a classic FAL, not a blueprint, the actual FAL itself, for just over 270,000 Dark Zone funds. This is a gear score 2291, however it does require that you be Dark Zone rank 90, so that is pretty high, but if you are looking for a guaranteed way to get a 229 weapon, to maybe up your gear score or perhaps, work with something like that, then this is of course an option. However, that being said, given that you have to be so high and it's pretty expensive, it's not really worth it because the talents on it aren't that great. It has Adept, Provident, and Determined, so using a skill increases your critical hit chance by 9% for 5 seconds. The last bullet of the magazine deals 58% more damage, and killing a target reduces skill cooldowns by 9.5%. So given the investment required to get this weapon, it's really not worth it. But, of course, on top of that, you also have the 204 blueprint. So once again, this week we have the LVOA-C, which is a really cool assault rifle, especially now consider that if you craft anything post 1.3, then it will of course roll with the enemy armor damage bonus, and of course for PlayStation 4 players that should apply on Tuesday, I believe, is when the 1.3 base update is going to drop. However, on top of that, you also have a black market M60 E6 blueprint, which is a LMG. LMGs of course will roll with additional damage when fighting targets out of cover. So again, that's an option, and LMGs are actually a lot better this time around. I am not necessarily using one myself at the moment, just because I haven't actually found a good one, but they are something you can actually viably consider. Now, both of those of course require that you be Dark Zone rank 75, and they are both gear score 204. Moving over to the DZ04 safe room, you have a performance gear mod. Not really much to say here. I still am not a fan of these at all, so generally speaking, unless you have miraculously found a good way to use them, I would steer clear with these and save your money. DZ05, this time around there are two weapon mods. You have a CQBSS Scope FDE Blueprint, which is a level 32 blueprint, and you also have a muzzle brake, again, a level 32, so if you're looking for slightly better weapon mods to up your DPS and whatnot, then this is something you should consider. Of course, DZ06 does have some new gear pieces, but I generally don't include it because once they change after the update, they do still remain fixed, but you can get a couple of the new gear set pieces. So, for example, once the base 1.3 update drops for PlayStation next week, you can grab a couple of the Alpha Bridge pieces there. They're, of course, only 191 or 214, but still, it's a place to get started. Then, moving over to the base of operations. Now, this vendor's changed a little bit because, of course, the blueprints you used to sell have been taken down into the terminal, so you can go and buy them there. But for the actual base weapons, of course, the Historian is still there. But in terms of weapons, you have the classic M1A, which will set you back 679 Phoenix credits, and you have the Police MK17, which will set you back also 679 Phoenix credits. Now, the classic M1A has Determined, where killing a target reduces skill cooldowns by 9%, Swift, where reloading is 13.5% faster, and Intense, where the first bullet of the magazine has a 13% chance to apply the on-fire status effect to the target. So, again, not really great talents there, so I would probably save your credits. As for the Police MK17, then this one also has Swift, also Dominant, where every kill performed while your signature skill is active reduces the cooldown of your other skills by 8.5%. And finally it has Brutal, where headshot damage is increased by 24.5% when using this weapon. It is of course worth mentioning that Brutal in this case is on the third slot, so it's active straight off the bat. And of course the reason I mention that is because if you are running with the Alpha Bridge set, then that is something that is going to be very relevant. However, I have a video speaking about the Alpha Bridge set coming on Sunday, so stay tuned for that because that will make a lot more sense then. Finally, the new one this week, if we move over to the Underground, there is an Underground vendor. Of course, this is only applicable to people that have the DLC, so if you haven't bought the DLC, then this won't be for you. But if you do go down there, then there are also 2 additional weapons. They also have a rank requirement. You also have an underground rank. So if you hit rank 40, which is the top, I believe, you can buy the Paratrooper SVD, which is one of the new marksman rifles. Really, really good. I have this one myself. It is very, very stable, very fast firing. Quite possibly better than the M1A. I do still need to do some testing, but it is a very good marksman rifle. It'll set you back 930 Phoenix credits, and its gear score 229. However, if you're not quite rank 40 and you are rank 20, then you can get a surplus SVD. Similar branch of weapon, slightly different version, but this one will set you back 676 Phoenix credits. It's only gear score 204, but of course it is a halfway house. And as for the talents, the Paratrooper SVD has Prepared, where damage is increased by 14% when more than 40 meters from the target. It also has Competent, where weapon damage is increased by 14% for 10 seconds after using a skill. And it has Decisive, one of the new talents. Every single SVD will roll with this. You will later on be able to recalibrate it and remove this. At the moment that doesn't work, but for the time being, every single SVD you get will come with Decisive in the 3rd slot, and that is that killing a target will make your next shot with the weapon be an automatic critical hit. I also don't have an icon for this one just yet, so apologies for that, but it looks something like this. As for the surplus SVD, you once again have Competent, only this time round it's only a 13.5% increase after using a skill. You also have Capable, where using a skill improves the handling of a weapon for 13.5 seconds, and of course once again you have Decisive. But that's it. That is it for this week's vendor video. Those are all the new blueprints, those are some of the weapons, and that is of course all the new vendors as well. Hopefully you guys found this helpful, even if you are on PlayStation as well. Definitely, if the 1.3 update drops for you guys next week, be sure to check out some of the new options as well. But besides that, thank you very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.